Welcome back, everybody, to First Ring Daily. I'm filled with turkey. He's filled with turkey. And there are no turkeys on this show.
And what did two turkeys make, Brad?
I don't know, but you're going to tell me. Oh, my God.
Thank you, Tim Cook.
Not speaking of Tim Cook, but today's show is brought to you by Smart Deploy, folks. Check them out at smartdeploy.com/Thurrott because they make IT tools to make managing Windows easier, get all those deployments done, make them happen, make them faster, to be honest. Check them out, smartdeploy.com/Thurrott. And Paul, you are, let's see, a living example that you can eat bread and survive.
I was wondering where that sentence was going to go. You are a living example, ... Like, this is not going to go well. I did eat bread over the weekend for the first time. I was just thinking about this. I think December 4th-ish is my 1-year anniversary on this dietary change. I think I might write up something about it. But yeah, I had stuffing on Thanksgiving Day. I had some stuffing the day after as part of, like, the leftover thing.
Yeah.
And that's been pretty much it. I had some pie. I had some thin pieces of pie. But I'm thinking back, like, over the past year, like I've had like flour breading occasionally. Like, I'm on a low carb thing. It's not like complete no carb. Like, I'm not running for Jesus or anything. But I mean, it's like it's but never in this quantity. And I don't believe I've ever had a piece of bread over the entire year or a cracker. I've had 1 or 2 nacho chips here and there. Yeah. Anyway,
real exciting in the
I will say, what I'm doing is scientifically sound, by the way. You really only need fat and protein to survive. But there was some intestinal distress on Thursday for sure. My body was like, "What the hell have you put into me?" Yeah. So that was good.
It only starts with the first time, and then you chase that dragon. And,
well, but that's the thing. I actually have to say, and this is the reason I would consider writing this up. I was never like a big eater of sweets, and I was never really that into cola or soda or whatever. And I would say to anyone who's trying to lose weight, like, it's actually obvious for most people the things you should eliminate. Like, if you drink soda at all, or any sugary drink or orange juice or whatever, like, it's easy to say, look, that's the thing you got to get rid of. If you eat snacks like chips and things that are full of carbohydrates, very easy to say, like, you just stop doing that thing. I never did those things, but what I used to eat a lot of, which I really liked, was like white toast, with butter. And I really liked bread, And the interesting thing is, and this is something I never would have anticipated, is this is not the type of restrictive diet where you kind of miss the thing you're not eating all the time. Like, the truth is, like, I actually really don't care. So, like, bread, this thing that I loved, I never cared to eat it. Like, it never bothered me that I was not eating it, and still doesn't. And I think the Thanksgiving thing is just that for me, because seriously, like 50 plus years of eating 50 years-ish of eating this every Thanksgiving. It's like Thanksgiving to me is turkey, gravy, and stuffing, right? And this is other stuff that other people like potato. Like, I don't eat potatoes anyway, or cranberry things or whatever, like bread.
Yep.
I don't eat that stuff, but it's part of a whole, it's part of a thing, so I will go back to my normal thing for now. I think on Christmas, given the fact that we bought 2 of these turkeys, we'll probably have a very similar meal. So I'll probably have a little bit of stuffing on that day, but that's, I don't know. Like, the truth is I don't miss it. So it works out pretty good. Yeah.
The one thing I thought you might say you miss is beer.
Oh, by the way, on that note too, that's part of the story too. I have not had a beer this entire year. Not one. I've had a sip from maybe a dozen beers over the year. Like, my wife will try some new beer in a restaurant and I'll have to try it. I don't miss it at all.
But we don't miss you.
I know. It's okay.
Something else that, since we're talking about things that affect the soul, such as bread, this came out many, 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 many years ago, and my dad sent it to me in a text message and says, "Hey, I think I know why you like writing so much." And so this is a book my dad co-authored with a bunch of other people. He didn't write the whole thing, but he wrote some stuff that's in it. And I want to point out a couple of things here. First off, it's for the Apple II. So we know this is, I want to say late 80s, maybe early 90s. I'm guessing. I'm not quite exactly
I would put
sure.
it more mid 80s.
Okay, probably mid 80s.
It's not. Yeah, it's easily 30, 35 years old. Yeah.
And so I want to point something out. So this is my dad up here. This is my brother, my middle brother, and my older brother. And you'll notice who's not in the photo. That would be me.
Were you like a baby or something at the time?
I haven't actually asked my dad this. I joked about it on Twitter. People are like, oh my God, do you like have a bad relationship with your father? And it's like, no, not at all.
That's amazing.
I was probably eating paint chips at somewhere. Jesus Christ. We'll talk about this in a minute. Just, anyways.
Oh boy. Sorry, for those who are listening, Brad's lights went out yet again.
Yeah. So I believe I was alive when this photo was taken, because there's another photo in my parents' household, like very similar clothing and decor, and I'm in it. But I would have been 1 year old, maybe less than that.
Yeah, so that's why, right? The notion that a 1 year old would use an Apple II is ludicrous. So I think the thought was not so much let's exclude Brad as, let's make this age appropriate for the topic.
It's just going to get real awkward when I find the rest of the photo, and it's like I'm just cropped out.
I know it could be your mother is holding you off to the side, right?
Probably
also, your microphone is out. There you go.
Well, I was going to mute myself to turn my lights back on, but anyways, Alexa, turn on the studio lights. Okay. But so my father was writing about Apple in the mid '80s. And I'm now writing about Microsoft, and now you know why. Actually, I had nothing to do with that, but my dad just sent that to me. He thought that was pretty funny. And I'm like, you know what? That makes sense.
I think that's amazing that your dad was a writer at all. That's cool.
Yeah, he programmed, too. He had a couple published programs for the Apple II. Then he started a company selling insurance. So you could tell that career went real far. He was a hobbyist, by all means. But we always had
I feel like you're half a generation off from me, right? So your parents were just young enough to catch the personal computing wave and be part of it. By the time it happened for my parents, they were already too old. So I remember my dad being very frustrated. Like we got it in television one Christmas, and he wanted to play the games. You could tell he wanted to play the games, but he was just incapable of playing the games. And I think had he been 5 or 10 years younger, that might have been a different thing. But he was just too late, Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I remember we had that. I remember 1 year for the holidays we got, it was quite literally just a microchip wrapped up. I think it was RAM, actually.
That's great.
And then like the Christmas present was like down in the basement, all set or being ready to be set up was I think it was a laser. I want to say it was the follow-up to the Apple II we had for a while. And then it went to, I think, a laser or something.
Wow. Interesting.
Yep. Anyways, Paul, do you know what, wrong way on the little thing is. Do you know what these are?
Well, they're extension cords of some kind.
Yep, and a little plug expander. This is called the opposite of IoT.
Yep. It's the opposite of smart, but I'm guessing it just works.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, and my wife, very just in the perfect way possible, is like, she's like, why are you buying an extension cord and basically a plug expander? And I said, well, I got to rewire my office and fix this stuff. And she says, you've done that like 4 times this month. And I was like, just be nice. Be nice. Don't.
Yeah, I mean, my response to that would be like, we've been married for quite some time. I think you understand that this is an ongoing process that's never going to end.
Yeah. So basically what I think I'm going to do is wire up most of the lights that I use that you see that turn off into one power strip. And then I just have to turn that power strip on. It'll turn on most of the lights. And the reason why I need this or one of these is to extend the Surface Studio power cord to reach an outlet that's not going to be on that surge. And I think that's going to be my solution once I finally do it.
So your solution wasn't technology?
No, it was old-fashioned. You see how unreliable this has become. I actually ordered some, as much as I never thought I would say this, I ordered some more Philips light or Philips Hue bulbs for upstairs to replace the little switches that we're using because for whatever reason, the Philips Hue stuff has been the most reliable out of all the IoT
that stuff works great.
So
my sunroom is like could be like a Christmas tour. We could charge the neighbors to walk through it because like we have these Philips Hue lights in the corners. And so it's like alternating red and green or whatever. It's really cool.
Which reminds me, I'm stealing that idea, Paul.
Yeah. No, that's it. Well, you're welcome to it.
No, well, I've got some of those Hue blooms that I don't use because they were down here before.
That's exactly what I'm using. You point them at the corners.
Yeah.
And they just do an ambient, it's like a little Christmas festival in there every night.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do that. Speaking of things I'm going to do, Paul, do you remember the Threadripper machine that I had that died?
Yes.
According to FedEx, it will be here tomorrow. A new one's coming back.
Oh boy! Let me know when you're ready for an Intel-based gaming PC. I could probably make that happen.
How about Thursday?
Well, let me rephrase. It won't happen before we go to Hawaii, but
yeah, no, actually, well, I guess it really just depends. So what I don't know is if they've swapped out any components. For viewers who are not up to speed on this, what happened was the motherboard ultimately died. That's what the issue was. It wasn't the power supply like I thought. They got it and said, yeah, the motherboard's fried. And I said, I swear I didn't do it. Please don't charge me. And they swapped that out and shipped it back. But it should be a pretty high-end machine. I'm hoping they kept the 1080 Ti in there. And yeah.
I'm sure they did. I think the issue with that machine was that it was a demo rig and it was probably moved a lot. And
it was.
Typically, you'd buy it, put it on the floor, and never touch it again.
That's unusual. You mean not tinker with it, Paul?
Right. Even as I said that, I realized that was a mistake. But yeah, okay. You might screw around with the graphics card, add RAM, that kind of stuff. But I think just the constant motion and tinkering with it in different places and everything was kind of an issue.
Yeah. So anyways, that'll be back here tomorrow. Hopefully it gets delivered in time, and hopefully it arrives in one piece. But speaking of cutting pieces off, because that transition didn't work as well in my head as I thought it would.
Nope.
Microsoft is cutting a piece off the dollar signs for the Surface Laptop for Cyber Monday. If you've been looking to get a Surface Laptop, they're taking off to up to $200 off on those configurations if that's what you're looking for.
Yep. I'm not going to detail it here, but for premium readers, I wrote an article kind of on this topic because the Surface Laptop's really interesting in the sense that from a logical standpoint, it's a laptop and it has one USB port, which is crazy in this day and age. And it's, it doesn't have Thunderbolt expandability, which is kind of strange. And you can kind of make these logical complaints about it. But from an emotional standpoint, the Surface Laptop is beautiful. And I think a lot of people just look at it and they're immediately taken with it. And I think they look past the things that are logically wrong with it. And they want it anyway, right? And that's very understandable. I think that's very typical with big purchases. So at $200 off, if you're kind of weighing the emotion and the logic, I mean, it starts to go in the other direction. I mean, the real base price of a Surface Laptop that anyone should buy is normally $1299, right? The $999 version only has 4 gigs of RAM. So that version is now $1099. And look, it's still expensive. I get it. It's a premium computer. I'm not suggesting it's suddenly affordable to everybody. But if you were kind of on the edge about this purchase, I would tell you to look at this thing again, because at $1099, and again, don't buy the cheaper one, but at $1099, this is a different equation. And it is a beautiful, beautiful computer. It's something to think about.
No, it really is. I mean, especially with the holiday season, basically, well, it is upon us. I guess it kind of kicks off with Black Friday.
Is.
Yeah. So it's, there you go. And Paul, I think,
yes, sir.
I'm not going to say you're right, but I'm going to say you were not wrong. On that brand new Surface Laptop, what browser are you going to be running?
Firefox. This is very interesting to me because, it's funny because I've written about this stuff very recently about embracing change, for example. One of those things that I do all the time, and this dates back, and I mean literally over 20 years, is I always test and retest things against each other. So in this case, I've been using Google Chrome basically since it came out. It replaced probably Firefox at the time. And things come along. Firefox improved somewhat over the years. IE improved a little bit, and then they replaced it with Edge. Opera has been improving. There were other alternate browsers like Vivaldi and others, and I test them. I test them all, and some have come close. You know, Opera has some interesting bits to it. Opera switched to the Chrome rendering engine at some point, and that made it more interesting. But I've always kind of fallen back to Chrome for very logical reasons, by the way, speaking of logic versus emotion. And I've been using Chrome across all my devices. But with this latest release of Firefox, I feel like they've closed the gap on important things like performance, resource usage, in particular RAM usage. They've adopted a rendering style that to me looks very much like Edge. The browser itself looks very much like Edge if you use the light theme. I like those things. I've always liked the way that Edge renders text. So all of a sudden, you know, you have this thing that kind of makes tons of sense. Now, for me in particular, I do use those Chrome web apps on the desktop, right? I pin them to my taskbar. I'm still using those. And on the PC, there's a little bit of inelegance there because if I open like Google Inbox and there's a hyperlink and I click on it, it doesn't matter what I've set as my default browser. It's going to open in Chrome because it sees it as basically another tab. I can't cause that to open in Firefox. So that kind of stinks. But other than that, I mean, this browser is beautiful to look at. It runs fast. It uses fewer resources. There's that whole moral thing with Google and privacy and how it's all really driving ads. And Firefox has none of those problems. So I would just say, you know, again, like sort of like Surface Laptop, I'm not going to tell you to do it, but I'm going to tell you to consider it. You should absolutely consider it. It's a great browser. It is suddenly, again, a great browser with this latest version.
Yeah. The one thing that pushed me over the edge, and not that edge, but Firefox. So the restore last browser session is better on Firefox than it is on Chrome. And the fact that it maintains the window position on my triple monitor setup. So I can open Firefox after reboot, hit restore last session, and TweetDeck is pinned where it needs to be. The other main browsing window is right where it needs to be. And then everything else you said is true. And it's like, well, man, this is just convenient. It's like, so why would I keep using Chrome when all things else are pretty much equal? It's, And so it does render text better too, by the way.
If you've never used it or if you haven't used it in a while, I mean, you got to remember the basics too. This is a browser that has always been extensible with extensions. So that stuff's always been great. It is always adhered to web standards. That stuff's always been great. I mean, I think they've fallen behind over the years from a performance, rendering quality, whatever standpoint. That stuff they've all fixed. And, battery life is an unknown. I'd say the one compelling case that Microsoft can make for Edge is that the battery life situation is great. So if you're on a flight, you want to get work done and you have X number of hours and you want it to last, I mean, Edge might still be the best choice. I don't know how to test the battery life of Edge versus Firefox. Hopefully Microsoft will do it for us.
Yeah.
They've done it in the past. We'll see. If I think, by the way, if a couple months go by and we don't see a Edge versus Firefox battery life test, you might know why. So we'll see. But I think it's fantastic. I really think you should take a look at it.
Yeah. I was going to write this up. You wrote it up pretty well. I think I'm going to take another angle when I write this up. This is actually really bad news for Edge because previously it's like, okay, you had Chrome was kind of like the standard. And it's like, okay, you know what? I don't want to use Chrome because of the Google, whatever your personal reason is. You're like, okay, well, let's look at Firefox and let's look at Edge. And the older version of Firefox compared to Edge, it was relatively comparable. But this, it is, and I don't think it's placebo because I've been trying to test it myself. I can tell that it's noticeably faster than even Chrome opening some links. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. I mean, anything that's new and shiny at first, you kind of have this like, oh, this is really cool, and over time, usually these things kind of betray you, and you're like, okay, it doesn't do this one thing, I can't use it anymore. There are definitely things about Firefox that are not as good as Chrome. I mean, it's not perfect, right? But the things that I need are very particular to me, like those pinned web apps, or I often use the inspect thing to find graphics on web pages.
Yep.
That's no better on Firefox than it is on Edge. Like it's still easier to do that in Chrome, but those are like super particular issues. And this has all the benefits of any cross-platform browser. You can run it on on iOS or Android. You can get access to the tabs that were open on other platforms that you're using, so you get that kind of thing. It shares the bookmarks and the passwords and the form fill and all that stuff. It's the full package. So again, just check it out, make your own decision. But it's back. I mean, I think it's so cool that this browser is still around and is still excelling, at this late stage. It's good.
Speaking of things that are not back, by the way, here on this is Mobile Monday. This is a bit of a stretch, but if you use this on your mobile phone, you'll understand why. Skype has announced today that they are killing support for Facebook login. So if you use that to log into Skype, I believe it's January 10th, you're no longer going to be able to do that.
I wonder how many people do that.
I bet Facebook could tell us. And Microsoft.
Yeah, I bet they won't. Unless they want to make fun of it. There were 17 people. And
exactly.
I wonder what the real impetus for this was. I think the newer Skype clients all don't support this login, right? So maybe if we had been paying attention, we might have noticed that. The truth is I see Skype and I sign in with my Microsoft account. I had to sort of think about it. Like, you could sign in with Facebook, really? Like, I didn't even, I had sort of forgotten about that. So maybe that's
I'm
the real
sure
issue.
there are some people out there using it. We don't have any idea, but the thing, I don't know. You can go read the post and that'll give you some more insight to it. But just be aware. You got anything else for today, Paul?
I got a lot of stuff today. Actually, I got to run errands today, but I'm going to do an update for the book. I added a phone chapter. In fact, I wrote since I just published something about Microsoft making its own phone that's related to this.
Chapter.
What's that?
I thought you would delete a phone chapter.
No, this is about Windows 10 integration with phones, like Android phones and iPhones. And I actually feel like a lot of people don't understand what's going on there because they've been kind of stealthy about it. But there's actually a wide range of continue on PC functionality that you can get between Windows 10 and your Android phone or iPhone. And it goes up in stages depending on how much Microsoft stuff you're doing on the phone. So, I had you install that continue on PC app, for example, which is kind of interesting through Share. But if you use Edge, it's even better. If you use the Microsoft launcher, it's a lot better. So there's a lot of possibilities there. I think the only way it's going to work for Microsoft strategically, though, is if they sell their own phone. Because if you look at any of the phones they sell, they advertise that you can get the Microsoft launcher, but they can't include it on the phone. If they just sold their own Android phone, they could put all that stuff in. They could Microsoft launcher, the Microsoft lock screen app, the Microsoft apps are all pre-installed, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, there's a whole thing going on there, but I'll be working on that more today. How about you?
Well, I'm waiting on the computer. I'm actually something I'm going to be working on here. So I'm hoping that like I said, that machine comes with the 1080 Ti. And so what I actually have been doing the past 48 hours or so is I've loaded a bunch of games that I typically don't always play. Doom and Tomb Raider. They're a little bit older. On my older machine with a 980 Ti in it, I did a lot of benchmarking on it. So I'm hoping that 1080 Ti comes and I can just pop it in my machine, run a whole bunch of benchmarks, write up a review, and just kind of see the difference. More specifically, because somebody asked me, they said, "Hey, Brad, is a 980 Ti a still good card to buy if you want to get into gaming?"
Oh, a 980 Ti. Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, and so I wanted to kind of benchmark it and say definitively, like, okay, what kind of frame rates are you getting, and help those people out. And I'll probably end up writing up a 1080 Ti review.
What are you going to use for benchmarking?
So I got a bunch of stuff. So I've got 3D Mark, which is kind of one of an industry standard. Yep. I used Cinebench R15, and then there was another one, like Graphics Bench, I think. And then I played PUBG, which isn't a great benchmark, I will fully admit, because they're still optimizing that, which is why
I think that actually makes it an interesting benchmark. But yeah,
the only reason I say that is that it's going to be, for this tech comparison, I absolutely agree. But yeah, like in 6 months from now, they're going to optimize it, and it'll be a better experience. So then I also re-downloaded Doom, which I played previously, and then re-downloaded Tomb Raider. Played those games for about an hour each, and tried to get a min and max frame rate on those titles. So
you should ping me about this, because I can run those benchmarks on this thing, and you could have another point of comparison.
Yeah.
Although it's not a great head. This machine only has 16 gigs of RAM. I'm not sure if that would impact things too much, but it has dual graphics. I know. Yeah. Dual graphics, but not TI, right? So it's like 1080, dual GTX 1080s, but
1080 casual edition.
Yeah, casual gamer edition. Yeah, Facebook gamer edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So with that, folks, today's show is brought to you by Smart Deploys. They specialize in computer imaging, so your IT team doesn't have to. Check them out, smartdeploy.com/throt. Go grab those free licenses before they are gone. And we'll be right back here tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful day.